is not controlled by us. And so though that issue is outside of us, however, it's very much within.
The way media is today, we have an environment where we can, you can speak your mind, you can create your own content.
I was so like angry that I was being marginalized.
But I'm always like, I need it to be tight. I need it to be together.
That we don't see color, which don't get me into that. I can't stand that because I think we should. It's so many different things and we don't have the luxury to like breathe and figure that shit out. I'm sorry.
See, I was trying to be good.
I'm so sorry. But we don't have the luxury to do that and take time and have the conversation. I mean, I feel like we're blessed here to be able to sit and talk and say, to really have these conversations. Most of you ain't got time. You're trying to eat, you're trying to work. Like you don't have time to be autistic. There's no time for that. And so people really aren't tapped into a full identity. I was reading an article back when Selma was first coming out, and there was just so much information about the civil rights movement because Selma sparked that, which is awesome. That's what media can do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's really awesome. And there was a percentage, and I'm going to mess it up because I don't know for sure, but it was something like maybe like only 10 or 12% of the Black population at the time was only actively involved in the civil rights movement.
It's fairly accurate.
And I think it's getting to that space where you also understand not everybody carries that responsibility. I do think it's the artists, it's the creatives, it's the people that I do think it's those people that push the conversation forward and work on systematic stuff and also personal identity. But the majority, it's trauma. They're just living life.
Yeah.
Like
not get through.
That just is what it is.
I recently was interviewed about feminism and Black women, that sort of thing. And one of the questions that I was asked is, were my parents involved in the movement? And, were they activists? And I was like, no, they didn't. I was thinking they didn't do anything. And by the time I got to the end of the interview, I had to go back to that question because I had such a weird feeling about saying that about my parents. Right. And then I was like, but because of who I am, the way that they raised me was a revolutionary act.
That's right.
In and of itself.
That's right.
Being revolutionary or being an activist, it doesn't look the same as it used to look. It looks different in 2015 than it did. I can speak out against something on change.org. I just did it this morning. There's ways to do it that people don't. It's how you live your life.
You mentioned that we live in an age where everything is accessible online, so we're able to investigate and find out what companies support GMOs and so forth. And I want us to kind of think systemically in terms of how racism gets infused throughout the companies or institutions, thinking about what we buy, what we watch on television, how we may be unconsciously supporting institutional racism, because institutional racism is designed to privilege a certain group of people. And we already have acknowledged that certain group of people own the media that we're inundated with and receive all of these negative messages.
It became an extended conversation when Sorority Sisters, the VH1? The show, when that shows came out. So as you were asking the question, that was actually a thing that just sort of kept coming to mind.
Okay.
Because I do watch Real Housewives of Atlanta. I was very vocal against Sorority Sisters for particular reasons, and I kept having to tease out my position on both. And I guess for myself, it's the only way I tend to justify or I'm okay with it is because we do have so many, we have such a variety of different shows and different people available to us now to see en masse to me. So I'm like, I'm okay watching this because I also know that Scandal is on or this other show is on. So because to take it away, I'm not gonna boycott Real Housewives of Atlanta. Like I watch it. I'm not gonna not act like I don't.
I like this question because it makes me think, because Kyra mentioned earlier that it's like all this technology, all this exposure is awesome. However, there is a great lack of critical thinking.
Yeah,
And that's
true.
the danger, because I was thinking, like, I was just catching up on Real Housewives of Atlanta last night.
Yeah.
However, when I turn it off, and usually I get like exhausted after a while, and I'm like, I need a break.
Yeah, I need to
and
step
then
back.
like I'll switch over to like Melissa Harris Perry, and I feel like I refilled my cup, you know? But like everyone's not going to do that. And I think we do have to remember that, because I don't. And sometimes, you know, my students will always ask, like, Miss Dale, do you watch? And I'm always like, no. I always say that I don't, because I'm trying to protect
Model for
you know?
them. Yeah.
But I thought about it, because they are watching it. It is dangerous when there isn't critical thinking behind it, because I watch it with my husband too. I'm telling him too. He's also a teacher. But when we're watching it, we're having critical conversations. Like,
Yes.
Right, we
this,
are.
Like, this is the issue exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's an awesome question. I didn't even.
That is a fantastic question. And I think what's interesting what you're saying about the critical thinking being the missing piece. I think you have to also look at, for the most part, who is the target audience for those shows. And I think with so many things, you know, I just learned for kids ages like 8 to 13, Empire is like the second most watched
Popular.
show.
It's
It's
very
popular.
popular.
Those are kids.
Very
I didn't
popular
know
show.
Those are kids.
Yeah.
So I think what it is in general, and not to take it too far back, but my whole thing is like identity. Like, and the thing is, we're at a space now that we all have to share the same space together, which also means we have the same options. All Black TV cannot be good Black TV.
It's not going to be.
It's not going to be, because now that we're, you know, in the mainstream, have the same options. The thing is, we also get the flaws of that as well. They have Honey Boo Boo Child, or they can watch whatever. Guess what? We get the same thing, but the problem is we're a community in complete crisis.
Yeah.
So because we're a community in crisis, you don't have that critical thinking. This is what, especially young ladies, this is what they're watching, because we're also saying the dysfunction that you're showing on reality TV, I'm making you famous for it. And you're fly with it. And you got this, and I'm wearing this, and I'm fly, and I am beat. You know, no one should have to be beat every day like that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and I love a good beat. I do, but it's like, it's just so, and I'm watching it from, I see the brokenness. I know you're a 30, 40-year-old woman who has no idea who you are. And I'm not judging, but I see that to me, was far more captivating. I want to see how you got to that way. Give me that reality show.
Well, I don't watch that junk because I know that I have choices. I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. And I know if I contribute to that, then I'm not helping. Like, there's so many choices of things that you can watch. And that's the power that you have. You can create your own reality. And that's, you know, just be an example. Don't believe the one story. I have to have a whatever but to be popular. Like, just be who you are and be an example. And you'll be so surprised by the power that has. Like, people will watch you. You can say stuff all day long, but who you are is what people will notice and what they will want to emulate.
I think it is important not to watch junk, you know, that we know is junk. Because perhaps that's one place where we can do just a little bit better, right? Because we still are feeding ourselves the junk, you know, and we have to have a certain media diet that supports spiritual cleansing. We need to actually focus our energy on working on, right? And exercising the skill set of healing as a community, of empowering ourselves as a community, of supporting one another and growing as a community. Right? So we have to have a conscious effort in that. So I'm wondering, with our capacity and skill set and knowledge and resources, what could we do?
It does start with the conversation.
It does.
Like, not even just a conversation in this sense, but like, hello, how are you? Getting to know other people. It's all about exposure, right? If you just sat back and you watch TV all day and what's being thrown out there, like, you'd be racist. Like, I'd be racist too. But if I go and I make a conscious effort to go and meet someone else and have that conversation, then I'm, you know, starting the process at least of breaking down those stereotypes and those myths, and not just with outsiders, but within us too. Like, we don't know each other. We just met today, but we're able to have this conversation. And now I know what the perspective of someone who grew up in Germany was, right? Like, I didn't know that. But I think we do have to just be open to talking to each other. We can't go anywhere unless we start there. Because if I have my own lane and I only do this, and you only do that, and you only do this, and we never connect or we never collaborate, you know, like, she's going to be successful in this piece, but if we came together, we can be much more successful, much more impactful.
We have to stop making it seem like it's so hard also. I think everyone's like, oh, it's just too hard, it's too hard. Because once, it's even like when you start a diet and you're just like, it's too hard because I'm used to this, I'm used to this way, right? But once you change that habit and you make a new habit, you have to make a new habit, and then all of a sudden you don't even realize that you're doing it. You're talking to people that don't look like you. You're talking to people that work in environments that you didn't think were interesting. How many times have you like heard the story of like, oh, I was totally afraid of black people, and then I met this guy, and it was so cool, and we both loved to golf, and I couldn't believe it. And it's like, really, are we still are we still
Just meeting new black people.
You know, it's like, I think like we're all saying, it's exposure and it's conversations. And,
You said something earlier. I don't know if anybody else heard it when she was speaking, that that we don't see our culture.
Oh, yeah.
The culture is not seen. And I think that that's a very important concept, and it's very challenging in a capitalistic society for us to get back to that, to get back to what you were talking about it being about personal identity, and it's about cultural identity too. And I think that a huge problem is that we have generations, plural now, of people who don't know their history.
Right.
Not just black people, but white people who don't know the history. Nobody's telling the real
truth.
But you think about the vast majority of kids who are getting misinformation and no information, and that has happened for generations, plural. That's our problem, is that we don't know what our culture is. We don't know the history. How can we even embrace a culture or a concept of personal identity in a society that wants you to constantly want to be something other than who you are?
And how do you hold, I say kids' attention, but not really young adults, millennials, whatever. It's sad, but something about our history feels so far removed. Heavy, depressing. And we're in an age where everything is, your mind is taking in so much stuff that's pop and sexy and this and that and this and that, and then now you're going to take me back to whatever. So how do we
Well, it's always portrayed so negatively. My son used to say, why do all the black books look so sad?
And they do. And they don't. It's about taking control,
So true.
especially of media, the same media that's used to oppress us, to empower us. So really quickly, in a row, what's awesome about being a black woman?
Oh my gosh, our beautiful skin, fun hair. I can just play with my hair day and night. I love my hair so much. So many things. I can dance, but I don't think it's because I'm black. See, I believe in that one story. But then also, I think I can dance and other people don't think I can, so that's just my own reality.
I'm going to say everything. just everything. I think I love how we're able to simultaneously be ourselves and have this just flavor and presence, and then when I need to shift, which we hate using that word, but that's a coping mechanism. If I need to shift, and in a professional setting, if you meet me in one place, I'm always myself. But the fact that we're able to navigate in that way and survive the way we have and flourish and still be we are still symbols of beauty and culture and this and that. That is amazing, because that was not designed to happen. So how freaking fabulous are we?
So Kyra just took my answer. I was going to say our layers, but which is what she just said. So I'm not going to elaborate too much about that. But I think also our diversity, just like as a whole. Like I love it. I love us. Like I love meeting us from different places and different, like the fact that you grew up in Germany, like during your formative years, I love that. Like, and people from different cities and different, like, because there is a certain like, oh, I'm from DC, like I'm from the Midwest, I'm from Atlanta, you know, like there's a different energy, but you're still like a black woman. So I don't know, it makes me happy.
I'm proud of the history, and you know, it's been painted to be so dark and so dirty, but I think like I'm still here, like started from the bottom, but I'm here. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that informs all of my experiences. And this is a plug, but I'm HBCU, you know, and I think because there's always this dialogue about like the need for them. And again, I went to UCLA for my master's, but I think it was because I went to Spelman first, like going there, like I knew who I was. Like, so you couldn't tell me who I was because I heard those dark and dirty stories and realized again that I'm still here, that we still made it, which makes me realize, as she said, like it might seem like it's difficult, it might seem like it's going to be hard, but like so did that, you know what I mean? Like nobody thought that I was going to be sitting here today, you know, like with a black president and you know, in Los Angeles doing what I want to do. I decide where I want to go. You know, like that to me is miraculous, and it shows like the tenacity and strength of us, which I love.
I think what I love most about, I mean, I really feel, especially just having come of age, so to speak, you know, I really feel the power of my ancestors in my own life and the power I've come from. Someone said something to me probably 20 years ago that they were talking about slavery, and they said that we are the best of the best. When you think of all the people who perished in the Middle Passage, or who said, hey, I'm not doing this, I'm out, I'm just jumping ship. You know, when we think about all the things that we've been through and who was left to survive, we are the best of the best. And that's identifying with the most positive aspect of our history, of our very tragic history, and really feeling empowered through it. You know, it's just like in my own personal life, I feel empowered by the challenges I've had. So I think that in telling our history, we have to remind our children that we are the best of the best. And I really feel the power of that in my life right now, because I really feel a strong sense of I know who I am. I feel as a black woman, we're complex. I feel very unapologetic, you know, right now in my life. And
Right now. Yes.
I'm so happy to be a black woman. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's been such an incredible journey. I'm challenged by certain things because of it, but it's all good.
I want to acknowledge Black motherhood and our abilities as Black women to really give birth to generations of survivors, of innovators, of amazing, amazing children who have changed the world. You know, it is our legacy to change the world, you know, and so I really embrace that. Standing on the shoulders of Lena Horne and Josephine Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and Sojourner Truth and all of the beautiful, and Harriet Tubman, who I tend to channel a lot during my work and my walk in this life. So on that note, thank you, ladies, for being with us to start this conversation, and please continue the conversation. You have no choice.
You're talking about slavery of the Jews or African Americans in U.S. culture. There was a financial gain.
You have to see yourself reflected. Otherwise, you know, you start to believe these things.
Because there's a difference between, you know, saying, oh, you're all right for a white girl, and then saying like, oh, you're a monster, so I'm going to shoot and kill you.
And I think there's stereotypes that do exist, and I think sometimes we have to separate stereotypes and racism.
My experience and your experience is not the same as a woman in the workplace. Because I am a woman of color. I am going to be treated in a different manner.